Hello everybody, this is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for April 30th, 2018. I'm Scott and I work on CircuitPython on the behalf of Adafruit along with a couple other folks in this voice chat. We do this meeting every week as a way for both the people who are paid to work on CircuitPython and those who just love it so much that they want to do projects and contribute to it so that we all join together so that we can get on the same page as to what we're working on and discuss the issues that have come up in the last week. The way this video chat happens Mondays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on our Discord server. We chat in text all week on Discord, so if you want to join, you can go to the URL adafru.it/discord. That will get you into the server, and then on Mondays you'll see a bunch of people hop in the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting is structured in 4 parts. I think it's 4. The first part is a quick state of CircuitPython, which I just go over some statistics from the last week, and then do a very brief, like 2 or 3 sentence overview of where we're at with CircuitPython. The second part we do is called Hug Reports, which is a chance for us to say thank you to folks and how they're and what they've done in the last week or even longer. It's good to both say thank you, but also reinforce what we value within our community. So think about that. And we'll do that in a round robin style. So I'll start and then we'll go to the top of the list and work our way down. If you don't have a mic or you just want to lurk, just send a text message or a message in the CircuitPython text channel and we'll just skip over you during the round robins. The second round robin we do is a status update, which is basically what you've been working on in the last week and kind of what you're planning on working on in the next week. And then lastly, we have kind of just a discussion / in the weeds section where we talk about anything that came up in more detail. So that is that. Let's get going with the state of CircuitPython. Sorry for the typing, but I do take time codes. So you can look on the Adafruit YouTube channel and see when things happened during the video chat. People are dropping off. They didn't like my intro. Okay, so state of CircuitPython. 10 pull requests merged in the last week from 7 different authors, which is epic. Some folks that are authors that I don't see regularly, Notro and Sigafus, so thank you to you along with the other 5 folks. We had 4 reviewers, Carter, myself, Dan, Halbert, and Katney, so thank you. And we have one new PR in the last week from Notro as well. Issue-wise, we closed 10 issues by 6 people and opened 8 by 6 people. 6 people opened 8. Which means we are reducing the number of open issues, which is always good. We've got 2 open pull requests, both on the CircuitPython core repo, and we've got 128 open issues. Most of those are on the core repo, but there's a number on different libraries as well. So if you're looking for some work to do or something to contribute, take a look in the notes, and we'll have a full list of the open PRs and the open issues. Those can always use extra eyes. Downloads wise, our latest unstable release is 3.0 Alpha 6. Alpha 5 was mistagged, so I made it Alpha 6. And since the release of that, which I think was last Wednesdays, so not like less than a week, we've had 106 total downloads, which is quite exciting. And that 24 of those are on the Metro M4 Express. So we sold an initial batch of about 100, and so those folks are being really good about keeping up to date with the latest alpha. For the latest stable, it's 2.2.4, and we've had 4,043 total downloads, which I didn't actually check, but I think it's on pace of about 400 or 500 downloads a week. That doesn't include all of the people that are getting 2.24 on boards that they're buying, because it is shipping on boards. There's a new AdaBot check thanks to Mr. McWethy. which is checking the import ustruct versus import struct, which is changing in 3x. There's 2 libraries that are outstanding that need to be fixed for that. There's also an issue for us to check that as well. And then the only other highlight of the Adabot library checks is that the STMPE driver that Jerry was kind enough to do is missing from read the docs in the bundle and the CircuitPython drivers page. So we should collaborate on getting that. In general, CircuitPython's going really well. The launch of the M4 has been pretty successful. Haven't had too many issues on the M4 side, which is great. We did have one issue with the boot. So if you do have one of those and you if you did get a Metro M4, we suggest running the update bootloader script, which will set the bit to protect the bootloader. The initial batch, that bit wasn't set, and we've had a few people. We've got a mystery bug that corrupts the bootloader, so we recommend updating it so that bit is set. There's a Learn Guide link that maybe Dan can post that he added with instructions on how to do that. In terms of 3.0, we're rocking it. We're, again, very close to getting ourselves to the beta state. And thank you to the folks that have been starting to whittle down the bugs that we need before we get to release candidate as well. So that's State of CircuitPython. Let's go on to Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance for you to say thank you to other members of the community for work they've done. And it's always good to say thank you. So I will thank you, Dan, for providing those notes. I will add that to the notes here. So my Hug Reports are first and foremost to Mr. McWethy, who was a very prolific contributor maybe a month or two back and kind of went away for a little while, but he's back, which is great. And he added check to Adabot for the ustruct stuff from 3x. So that's very helpful. I wanted to shout out to Notro for the RTC improvements. They added the RTC stuff and then have 2 really cool, one good fix in terms of calibration, PR that is already checked in, and then a second one that actually exposes the SAMD clocks through Python, which is really, really cool and interesting. I wanted to thank Dan Halbert and Carter for forum support over the weekend in particular. It was good to see people getting their stuff answered there. Kattni, Jerry, and Dan Halbert, thank you for the temp sensor fixes. We discovered that some of the temp sensor code didn't work when it was below freezing or below 0, I guess. So that's really been great to figure out as well. And lastly, thanks to Carter and Kattni for the LIS 3DH fixes, specifically around the tap functionality. Okay, Andon, do you have any Hug Reports? Andon is typing. General group hug. Haven't been terribly active here lately, but you've always had time for the puns, so thank you, Andon. Okay, Carter.
Group hug, and I guess also one to Kattni for letting me know my mic wasn't muted. And I guess I felt like I was gone all weekend, so whatever I did in the forums, happy to help out.
I think that was the Raspberry Pi stuff.
Okay, yeah, I did that kind of quickly on the road, but sure, no problem.
I still appreciate it. Okay, Sefin? Okay, awesome. Hug report for the Espruino maintainers making available JavaScript as an additional language on ESP8266. Parentheses, multiple languages help promote physical computing way of working for UK educators. Second, everyone who helped directly and indirectly with me understanding vlogging, the necessary next steps for GG-Kit's Vanguard launch. Thank you to maintainers of Floss Flowblade Editor, SOSI animation, Zephyr desktop sizing, simple screen recorder for desktop recording, lossless cut, trimming without transcoding. Oh, these are good. These are really good references. I'm gonna definitely, those will go in the notes. So thank you to public domain music sharers Kevin MacLeod, Kamiku, and Seek Knowledge for intro and background music. And thank you for Tony DeCola for reference MicroPython/CircuitPython videos. Any suggestions which other programming/making YouTube channels I should learn from? That's a good question. I'm going to put that in the discussion section. We can circle back to that if so. Gather your suggestions and we'll cover that a little bit later as well. So thank you, Sefin. C. Grover.
Yeah, group hug to everyone who has produced even the smallest amount of input for a learning guide, because I think I've been reading all of them. They're really super. The read the docs is great too. I'm launching into some new territory and really appreciate the thoroughness that everybody puts into that. So thanks.
Totally. All right, Dan.
So a bunch of things. I'm working on CPU temperature, which was in 2.2.
Hug reports, Dan.
Hug report, sorry. I was taking notes. Sorry. Hug reports, Jerry, for fixing the negative temperature thing on the temperature sensors in like 3 or 4 different libraries. All at once. Terrific. And testing and correcting our errors and all that kind of stuff. So that's very high on my Hugger report this week.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan. Deshiput. Grateful for the I2C clock stretching fixes, the RTC clock tuning, and the work on enabling code/data buffering. Oh, is that the cache stuff? Cool. A little bit about that. Somebody filed an issue on the Arduino side saying that the code cache that sits next to the Cortex M4 processor and the Metro M4 was not enabled. So initially we get speed ups of like 1.5 to 2 times as fast, but floating point and stuff should be even faster. So that's exciting. Jerry.
Group hug to everybody. Lots of great stuff this weekend. To you, Scott, for patience helping me and convincing me that GDB really is not all that hard to use. Fun to get back to it. I've been somehow avoiding it for so long.
I know the feeling.
Summersoft for the great work on the GPIO 16. It's nice to have that working on the ESP 8266.
Yep.
And then Carter and Dan for their help with the DHT and the AM 2320s and all that stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, Kattni.
Yeah. So giant hug report to Carter, who has been helping me immensely on multiple completely unrelated projects over the last week. Hug report to Jerry and Dan and Carter for this as well, for helping me try to figure out the buggy problem with the AM2320 temperature issue, and also for all of the help with the fact that my data logging project has been super buggy and having all kinds of problems. So that's been super great to have help with. That's what I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Kattni. Mike, do you have any hug reports?
Oh, I just want to hug the whole community. You know, I'm
Awesome.
I haven't been around long enough to see all the little ins and outs, but the group of people that just get together is awesome, and I'm glad to be more involved.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you. Summersoft. Carter, Kattni, Dan Halbert, and Jerry End for the Blitzkrieg on the AM 2320/DHT below freezing issue. Notro for the RTC edition and refinement, and Dan Halbert for the updated firmware build guide. Oh yes, I forgot about that. We should make sure that's in the newsletter this week as well. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for the hug reports. We'll go on to status updates. This is like a software development project management sort of thing, but the idea is that you take 2 minutes and talk about what you've been working on and what you plan on working on in the next week. And that can trigger further discussions that we want to have after we've done this kind of round robin on the status updates. So if there's anything that you'd like to further discuss, just let me know and I'll add it to the notes for the discussion after we do status updates. And I should have taken a time code. Oh well. I'll start. Last week, I finally got around to doing an issue that Deshipu had filed. I replaced the graphics in the logo directory with CircuitPython ones, including a bunch of different, hooray emoji or whatever. So Blinka is in there now, along with Blinka and doing a lot of different stuff. And I split apart the Illustrator files that are on the Dropbox into separate SVGs. So those should be easier to load and use, which should be good. I got PDM in, which is like recording. It's the last thing to do on the audio side for 3.0. I got it converted to register-based code, and it compiles on both the M0 and the M4, but I didn't actually test it yet. So the moment I get some technical time, probably later today or tomorrow, will be when I actually test that and hope to get that in hopefully by Wednesday. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is take a look at the LoRa and the RFM69 failures on 3.0 because some people are wanting to use that, and that's on our bucket list to fix before we get into our beta state. So I'm going to take a look at that after I finish the audio work, or at least after I get the audio work out for review. Andon, do you have a status update? Not really. Got the M4, but need to do stuff with it first. We'll see. Getting the M4 is exciting. Thank you for that update. Carter.
I looked at the BNO 055 issue a little more, and I'm not sure if anyone else saw it other than Deshipu. I saw him make some comments, but it seems like I've narrowed it down to something going on with bitbang IO and clock stretching. And that kind of crosses a threshold for me where I guess I'm going to pass the baton to either you or Dan to maybe sniff it out a little more, because it may be in C land.
Okay, is that where is the issue filed? Is that on the I think it's on the repo, yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, the repo for the actual sensor.
Right. It's probably better to have one in the core one if it's a clock stretching with bitbang IO issue.
Right. I was thinking of doing that. If you take a quick read at that, and if you think it really is, then yeah, it definitely should be an issue in the core, so you can track it there. Right. But I'm just kind of speculating at this point, so
it's fine if you want to punt it over.
Even on just speculation?
Yeah. Okay,
and then I can reference this one for the data that it has for the investigation so far.
Yeah, it's just the stuff that has a milestone in the core repo is more on my radar. So.
Okay, then I will do that.
Yep, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's happy to see it there.
That's all I got.
All right. Besides being awesome with helping everybody else, no big deal. Stefan. Stefan is typing. Have a release version 0.1.0 of VGKit's Vanguard repo, not yet pushed up to the GitHub link. Logo and graphic animations through SVG and SOSI to support vlogging tweens. There's a link there as well. Blending video tutorials with SVGs, like another link. Yeah, this stuff sounds really cool. I'm gonna have to look at these links. Copying this into the notes for those of you listening later. Rendering desktops for vlogging, parentheses, non-standard pixel ratios, example, half 1080p to tile with 2 cameras like Tony D through Zephyr. So looking forward to merging in demos of Adafruit Blinka once the VGKit's Rainbow Kit and the vlog launch process is over. Cool. That sounds awesome. All of this video production stuff is really interesting. All right, C. Grover. Have an M4 in hand, tested it against 3 existing CircuitPython projects, no issues yet. Good news. We'll probably work on some comparative benchmarks in my project space. Working on PCB designs. First, a MIDI-DIN interface Featherwing with integrated DSP-G1 synthesizer chip designed for Feather M0 Express and CircuitPython. 2, Nuvo LiPo string car, 1/2 size of existing LiPo charger Trinket M0 and CircuitPython. Third PCB design is various other PCB bits like LiPo charger breakout without USB and a mini DSP G1 synth breakout for inserting into an existing MIDI controller keyboard, and a panel mount dual MIDI DIN jack breakout with optional logic interface. Obviously, we'll have to start CircuitPython coding of a bunch of MIDI control code helpers and a custom analog-ish voice catalog now. That would be awesome. MIDI is something that people definitely want. You should definitely sync up with Old Crow because he's done some MIDI work already with CircuitPython. So make sure and collaborate there. Dan.
So I have a list starting from last week. I finished gamepad support, and that's now in Alpha 6 in 3.0. I don't have any games to play with it, so if anybody has any suggestions, that would be great. Haven't found anything to do with it other than demonstrate it. I wrote the CircuitPython. I wrote the brief guide for building CircuitPython, which shows you how to get your build environment set up and on the Mac and Linux and Windows subsystem for Linux, and welcome additions and suggestions for additions to that and corrections. As Scott mentioned, a GitHub person, WestFS, said, "Is the cache turned on?" And we said, "Oh, no, it isn't." So it's being turned on in Arduino, and we tested it in CircuitPython, and right now it's breaking the file system code, but we could probably fix that. If I comment out the file system code, then a simple for loop runs 1.6 times faster. So we definitely want to turn that on. I was working on debugging. There was a support issue, somebody using the TMP36 temperature sensor, which is analog out and worked in older versions of CircuitPython and wasn't working reliably in newer ones. And it's basically an electrical problem. Trying to figure that out. I implemented I wrote the code for CPU.temperature in 3.0 so far just on the SAMD21, and I compiled it and I tried it and it works, so that's good.
Awesome.
I'll work on the SAMD51. Yeah, it just sort of worked out of the box, which is great.
Yay.
Yeah, that doesn't usually happen.
You write perfect code every time, right, Dan?
Right. After I take out the bugs, it's perfect. So, and I have a couple of minor discussion items about where to put things in the I have a couple of things I'd like to add to the libraries somewhere, and I'd be
Okay.
interested in, this is sort of a naming issue,
Okay.
or what module issue. Okay. So we can add that to the weeds section.
Yep. Yeah, I was having a discussion with Notro about that too. So that'll be good. The Shifu. I'm working on a conference badge for Python conferences that's programmable in CircuitPython. I just got the first pixels displayed. I still need to fix the Python libraries for this, but I'm very happy with how they look. I'm also working on SAMD51 based version of the microgame handheld game console for now, making an Arduino compatible shield with a display and buttons to test everything on the Metro M4. I also got the microgame 10 microgame 10, which is 1.0, back in stock on Tindy. Awesome. Keep up the good work. Do you have a blog post of the fact that you're back in stock anywhere, Radomir? Because we could put that in the newsletter and try to get you out of stock again. Okay, link me for that, and then we'll put it in the newsletter. Okay, Jerry.
I spent a lot of time sticking DHCs and AM2320s in my freezer, and had a lot of fun with that. It seemed, I think we got them all caught now. And boy, the DHT documentation is pretty bizarre. So that was interesting. But one thing I discovered, and I don't know if other people are aware of this, but the AM2320 works is I2C, but it also works just like a DHT22 if you ground the SCL pin. That was something I discovered. I tried. It works great. So it is totally drop-in replaceable for a DHT22 as long as you ground the SCL pin. It is documented in their data sheet. That didn't normally mean anything, but it actually works. So I don't know if it's useful, but it's good to know. I got the STMP 610 up. So that's not released yet, correct? It's just out there in the repo. Is that the status of it?
I don't know if it's been released on the individual repo, but it's not in the bundle yet.
Right, and so it won't go into the bundle until it gets released. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll need to release it and then add it to the bundle.
I think that's probably a good place for it to be right now, is in between stage. I'm not sure it's really, so the read the docs aren't there and those things, and there's still a few things to work on. But I just, it's nice. I hope it's useful if anyone's looking for it to have something in the repo, but it probably isn't necessarily ready for release yet.
I would rather release it because more people will get it if it's in the bundle.
Okay, then that's fine with me. The one caveat on it is there is an occasional problem that turns up. Apparently, you can get the thing in the wrong state of SPI and the wrong mode.
Yeah.
And I didn't address that in the code directly yet. Basically, you just restarted. It works fine. I'm trying to work how to do that best. But so if people are using it, they might find some. You have to sometimes kick it to get it to start.
Yeah, we could mark it as a beta. Okay.
Then when we get to the weeds, I had a couple of questions about the LoRa RFN69 stuff and about the wanted to follow up on this on the I2C clock stretching stuff.
Okay.
So
radio weeds and I can't type today. All right, Kenny.
So, been fighting with data loggers. Also been setting up a new machine. So I'm finally kind of moved in. I just keep running into every time I go to do something that I'm so used to having everything installed for. And it's like, you don't have this thing. So, it's just a slow process. So we figured out there was a bug in the library. We got past that, so I'm finally able to get some viable data. Hoping to get that guide finished up. It'll definitely be done by Wednesday at the latest. Hopefully today or tomorrow would be better. I'm gonna be I've already done up the code for the next two plots of the week. Those are taken care of. One of the pages is written, one is not, and so I'll be doing that in the next couple days as well. And we're going to do one more quick project before PyCon. And the plan is to do a very simple Gemma project that people can, do up real quickly. And just more stuff to be able to work with it at PyCon. So we'll do a capacitive touch with the onboard LED, and that should be fun. I guess other than that, it's just basically cleaning up loose ends. This weekend is a local convention where I will be doing a workshop with Circuit Playground Express, which I still need to get written up as well. I got 20 boards, and hopefully I will have 20 people who get to learn all about CircuitPython this weekend.
Is it being recorded?
I don't think so. There's privacy concerns. I have people planning on doing at least some photography for it.
Okay.
I may ask at the beginning if everybody's okay with recording it, and then possibly do that.
Okay.
But it all just depends on who's available and to do it and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I should at least have some stuff, something to blog up, and that way, I can post the slides or something.
Totally.
If the slides end up being worth posting.
Yeah. I bet they will. Thanks, Katney.
Yep.
Mike.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing. Joining Adafruit today.
Yes. Again, glad to be with the community. I'll have my fingers in the pot somewhere, somehow. Probably be burned a couple times.
Do you want to give a little background about yourself or talk about your book at all?
Yeah, sure. My name's Mike Barella. Today's my first official day for Microsoft, but I've been contracting
Adafruit.
off and on for over 4 years, doing learn guides and various things. And I'm currently writing a book for Maker Media called something to the effect of Getting Started with Adafruit Circuit Playground Express, which will have a large CircuitPython component to it, besides make code and a bit of Arduino. So that's what's been keeping me busy, extracting myself from my previous job. That's why I posted Summersoft. I did 30 years of diplomacy as a Foreign Service officer for the U.S. Department of State. So they often say a diplomat is somebody that can tell you to, something to the effect of walk into the ocean and kill yourself, but you'll be told in such a nice way that you won't even know what's happening until you're gone. So, again, if there's any way I can help the community, my communications lines are open.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Mike. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us on our Discord here.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, super excited to have you.
All right, Summersoft, wrap us up. ESP8266 GPIO 16 done? Exclamation point. Started looking at SAMD high frequency pulse in issue. Very likely an execution speed problem as discussed in the issue. Still researching possible alternatives. Got further on Windows plus Atmel Studio SAMD debugging guide. Have a few more screenshots left to grab and need to write the details of how to find and view information, such as breakpoints, traces, etc. Awesome. That'll be super helpful. You could ask Dean. Dean does a lot of Atmel Studio stuff, and Lamore does as well. So if you have more questions, I can put you in contact with him. Okay, that is the I was gonna say Hug Reports. That is the status update portion. So let's move straight on to our discussion section. First, I have any suggestions for other programming/making YouTube channels I should learn from. I saw one go by for the Lazy Game Reviewer. I think it's what Mike said.
Yeah, Lazy Game Reviews. It is a wonderful channel if you're trying to learn how to do some quality YouTubing. I mean, the guy is awesome. But also on YouTube and chatting, Scanlime. Micah does a wonderful job too. So you can really learn a lot from those folks on how to do things besides the Adafruit chats.
Mm-hmm. I've been watching a lot of Nostalgia Nerd. Does like history of the Sega Genesis or stuff like that. There's another, I think it's called This Does Not Compute, that also does more like how to replace the backlight of a Game Boy and that sort of stuff.
Thanks for all the suggestions. I guess the focus is punchy tutorials. You know, it's that thing where somebody might join the start of a video and, you know, a minute later or a couple of minutes later, they've learned something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something super quick.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a bit of a tension. As I say, I've been learning about vlogging this week, realizing that, you know, in order to even get annotations or end screens, you've got to have earned like 4,000 viewing hours, and so there's a great temptation to make them long. But at the same time, you know, from a learner point of view, an educator point of view, I'd rather they were kind of short, really.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure how to trade those things off, but I'm just going to focus on video that is punchy and maybe hosted on my own website and promoted via Twitter rather than necessarily, you know, winning the YouTube search battle. But just try and make sure they're really useful resources.
Yep.
So anything that's like that, where people have got good production values for short, punchy tutorials, would be, you know, involving screens and electronics.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant. Any thoughts on that?
I can't think of anything that's short. Here's some old ones Dan links to for Jeremy Bloom. I'll put those in the notes. If any of it's CircuitPython, MicroPython, or Python related, we can get it in the newsletter as well, so that we can drive views that way. And Phil sometimes will show videos as well during Ask an Engineer, so keep them in the loop on that. Okay, Dan, do you want to talk about the library stuff?
Sure. So I just two questions. One is that in the code that I was writing recently for a gamepad, in Arduino, there's this map function which maps a value from the inside of one range to the inside of another, to the inside or another range inclusive.
Yep.
And it's just a function. It's a really useful function. It's very small, and it should be somewhere.
There is one in Simple.io.
Ah, okay. So it was put into Simple.io. Okay.
Yeah, and Simple.io is really another name for things Arduino users miss?
All right, then I'll look at that and maybe promote it in some way. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And
That's
maybe
very
we
helpful.
want to build it in or make it C or something too.
Yeah. And then the other question is, we've had several calls for better, more accurate clock and timing and time reporting functions, maybe integer based rather than floats, based on ticks and things like that. And
Yep.
if anybody has an example of, say, an existing Python library that we can steal the API from or something instead of inventing yet another one, or if they've thought about this in the past, that would be interesting.
My thinking was that we could add a precise time module, but that's
Okay.
not something from CPython.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked around, I didn't find anything in CPython world, but maybe there is something obscure.
Right. MicroPython puts the tixms and the tixus in the time module, right?
And we don't want to add stuff to time. We want it to be
Right.
a subset or the same as the CPython module. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I would just like take these two things and put them on like a precise time module or whatever.
Yeah.
Just so that it's clear that like, oh, you don't have precise time support on CPython, for example.
So that's it. That's all right. That's helpful. Those are the two things I wanted to discuss.
There is, yeah, for the precise time one, there's definitely an issue open.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just kind of wanted to raise that to the surface again, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be hard. It's just...
Right. It's not hard. It's more like a naming problem than anything else.
Right. So, yeah, computer science problems.
Right.
I'm just going to see what Radomir is typing up, and then I'll move on. Wonder if it would make sense to have a helper function that simply delays until a certain time passes from its last call. Yeah, I think most of the times this has come up as like people want to do what they can in Arduino and actually know timing. Like, oh, I want to flip this digital pin and then I want to delay for a tiny bit of time. And it's just, we do stuff in the background and we have interrupts that just don't make it that accurate unless we disable interrupts, which has a whole host of problems. But yeah, I think most people have been fine with pulse IO, pulse in and out, to do that finer grained stuff. More people are typing. Wait until. Yeah, constant frame rate. Yeah, I wonder if it makes sense to actually have a... You could have a class that sets just a flag every so often. So if you want to like run some code and delay every... You know, if you run too fast and you don't hit your next frame yet, like some way to just say like, okay, just wait until this flag is high again. Meaning that's when your 60th of a second starts. Yeah, I get that. It would be interesting to come up with an API where you just say like, notify me or like set this flag true every time I hit this 1/60th of a second, for example. And then you can wait. You do all your work and then you wait until you hit the next 60th of a second and then do more work. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just do it. Dishipu says hard to do without callbacks. Yeah. Maybe with a wait. Yep. Those are all good ideas. I'm just gonna copy this into the notes. Let's keep rolling. Jerry, do you want to talk about radio stuff?
Yeah. So I noticed I was following that thread that you've been working with somebody on the forum, and two things. One is that person's trying to use the single board, the feather that has the LoRa radio on it with the M0, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So programming the problems they're having with BOSA. I mean, I don't quite understand. I mean, that should be just the same as programming any basic unit, correct?
Yeah.
So I haven't used BOSA in a long time to try it, so I don't quite know what's going on there. But
Right.
when you're using BOSA 1.9, and that's the I guess the release up at Shumatech, but the ones that are out on Adafruit are 1.8. So I don't know if there's some problem with that.
Yeah.
But so I wasn't sure if you were looking for help with that section of it. But then the radio stuff itself, I'd be happy to help with that. I do have both a LoRa and RFM69 set here, so be happy to play around with that and help if I can.
I think you were you filed that issue, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because I went to try it when I first got my LoRa radios. I thought they were broken. I thought I'd fried them when I was soldering.
Right.
And turns out it was just they don't work. 3.0.
Yeah. I mean, any more research you can do into that is welcome.
Okay.
I mean, you fixed tick delay, so like you could do the entire fix, but
I'll say. And then the other thing, that's your line. Is there any place you're particularly looking for in there that you think the problem is?
I don't even know what the problem is.
Okay.
All I remember is that it says it doesn't work, and I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll just start looking at the Python at the scripts themselves and see what's going on.
Yeah, and like I've never actually used those radios, so I think you're ahead of me in that regard.
Okay.
I'd probably get my Salier out and just like hook that up to whatever connects the two and all that.
Okay. I'll see if I can again see if anything obvious jumps out. I had a question. There was a comment earlier about I2C clock stretching that Radomir made. Was there a fix made to that? I guess I missed that. And so was there something changed?
I believe that comment had to do with the fact that the bitbang clock stretching was fixed in upstream MicroPython. But I don't think I copied or like repurposed that code a bit into the bitbang IO module, and I don't think that when I did that, the clock stretching wasn't included. So,
so it's still a work in progress to get it, because there are still some issues with it as far as I know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think that's what Dishibu was talking about. Is that it was fixed in extmod I2C, but our copy for bitbang IO, which uses the common HAL digital IO stuff, hasn't been updated.
I guess it wasn't clear that. I mean, the big changes, as I understood it, was just really the timeout delay, which shouldn't have been affecting the problems that were being seen. So it's not obvious still what the problem is. Is that correct?
I thought it was the fix is that it doesn't use a hard-coded timeout anymore. So yeah, that sounds like what it is.
Okay, good. I'll just keep watching. I thought maybe I'd missed something that came up. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So it sounds like you may already have a start on a fix for the issue I just posted.
Oh yeah, totally. That does sound like the same thing, right? So it's probably not that too tricky of a fix, given you just have to like look and see what the change in the extmod version was, and to just apply that to the code in bitbang IO. If somebody wants to take a crack at that.
I'll be happy to look at it if somebody else doesn't get to it first. Probably be the end of the week before I can do too much with it.
Okay. That's good to know, though, because then maybe I'll avoid it. It's not super urgent in my mind, so. Yeah, I think the reason I didn't use so Dishipu says to use or just use the code from extmod I2C instead of a copy. Yeah, I believe the reason I didn't use that is because I wanted it to be built on top of the common HAL digital in-out API. I think that's why I did it that way. Because it's in shared module, and that should use the other common house stuff. Just waiting for more typing. Yeah, I know. Toshiba says we will miss further fixes if we keep using a copy. I'm aware. That's the choice, right? All right. Are there any other weeds topics people want to talk about? Stefan asks, is there any reference information about use of WebREPL in CircuitPython? I found Adafruit tutorial resources for its use in MicroPython. I don't believe so.
But it's the same.
It is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason for raising that is just knowing if support for WebREPL is sort of, I guess, mainstream and intended to be maintained. So I'd be aiming to use that and recommend it for the configurations that I'm using anyway.
It works the same way it's described, as you set it up by just calling, the WebREPL start. I can't remember the program start it, enable it, and then you access it through this little web driver that's available from the repository.
Right.
But then once you, all it does is get you to a REPL, which is then a CircuitPython REPL rather than a MicroPython REPL. But I don't think there's anything CircuitPython specific in it.
Right, but
are there any? Go.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Stefan. Just wanting to know, like, how committed are we to it, and I would say that we have no immediate plans to change it, but I haven't looked at it in depth, so there might be ways we could simplify it.
But I'm just wondering, I guess, if it's a way of working that you would guide learners to adopt or not. I mean, that might be another way that I could make a contribution in that if I'm documenting it and jointly pointing out that it runs on CircuitPython and it's expected to continue running on CircuitPython, then I can articulate that these resources apply to both platforms. It's a really useful. The basic concept for me is we've got this sort of £3 sterling or $2.50 wholesale device that, in principle, provides a development environment in a very, very minimal way that a learner could take home. And so, if you've got a 12-year-old kid in a classroom and they're just given this, they can take it home, plug it in. And when they power it on, using whatever home resources they might have, a tablet or a phone or anything, they can get an interactive Python prompt. If they can get access to any kind of text editor, they can start copy-pasting code in. And it's that kind of way of working that I'm hoping to guide people to use. And especially, it's assuming that mum or dad or grandma don't have the technical skills to configure a Python environment for them at home.
Right.
But if they just take it home in a bag and it will power up and give them that, then that's something that I can guide educators to share and learners to adopt.
Right. I have no interest in removing it, but I do have, and we're not going to get to Wi-Fi for a while. In terms of really highlighting it as something CircuitPython supports. Next on our radar is the NRF 52840 and the Bluetooth that comes with that. And I think that we're going to be thinking a lot about having that similar scenario happen over Bluetooth in a really easy way as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is a similar thing supported in the Bluetooth stuff. It's not supported fully or well completely yet, but it's there.
Right.
So there is a parallel that is very nice.
Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from in that by contrast with something that would need maybe a special environment or a modern Bluetooth stack or what have you, you've got something that will work with anything that runs Wi-Fi in a Chrome browser. And from an access point of view, that's really valuable. I think they had a similar situation to some extent with the microbit here in the UK. That in principle, it's capable of lots of configurations, but in practice, they have to be maintained and configured in a classroom, and a school technician has to set things up.
Right.
And so, the lowest common denominator is really handy.
Right. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we'll continue to fix it if it's broken, but we won't be changing it at least until like 5.0 when and if we do Wi-Fi in that stage.
Yeah, and improving it would be great too.
Yeah,
changing it.
Yeah, and so I'm definitely open to that. Like I'd love to, like I've looked at the instructions to do it, but I've never done it myself. But I'd love to figure out ways of simplifying it.
And the configuration that I run it with, which is maybe slightly unusual, is that the web REPL interface is served directly from the board.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have any need for a third party web REPL
Right.
page to be served from somewhere.
Right.
So in principle, you can then specialize it more further and further, and all of that stuff just is on the board.
Yeah, so I would say if you are improving it that way, we welcome changes into CircuitPython.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. Anyway.
Yeah, like it's just not something that like the folks who work for Adafruit it's not gonna be a focus of ours straight away. But I'd love to see it improved for sure. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. We just lost a couple of folks because of meetings. So those of you in the live chat, if you have a couple more questions, we can stick around after the meeting and chat. I might get a phone call here shortly, but we'll do that. And with that, I'll wrap it up. This is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for April 30th, 2018. You can chat with us all week on our Discord and in voice chat Mondays at 11 a.m. 2 p.m. Pacific, or 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. To join our Discord, you can do adafru.it/Discord. That's a URL. Put it in your browser. You'll get an invite. Discord also has an app that works quite well. This video will be up on YouTube shortly. And on there will be a link to the notes. So if you want to see time codes, it's available there. And it will also be linked to from the Adafruit Daily Python for Microcontrollers newsletter that hopefully everybody's subscribed to, because it's lots of good links and a featured story every week about CircuitPython, MicroPython, and Python or CPython. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll talk with you next week.
Thanks, everyone.